What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Everything Kayak Fishing Podcast, presented by American Legacy Fishing, hosted by yours truly, JT Hickman with the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel. Tonight, I got a special guest, fellow Army veteran, Freedom Squad member, and all around good guy and smallie hammer, Alex Deneau. Is it Deneau?
Yeah, that's right.
Do
That's
I
right.
say
That's
it right?
perfect. That's
Yep.
perfect.
So Alex and I have been chit-chatting back and forth over the last couple of years. He knows that I've been on this quest for chasing smallies, and we've talked back and forth, and I've sought his advice because I know he loves chasing the bronze, and it's really cool because and another part of it, his wife also fishes, and she chases the largemouth most of the time. So I've met both of them at one point in time or another, and it's really cool to have a family that that it's funny because they both fish, they both kayak fish, their focuses are both on just a little bit different species a lot of time. I remember meeting Missy at the Grubby Championship a year ago. Ran into her down at Canoe and Bistino when we were down in Texas a few weeks ago. But Alex and I actually took a little adventure earlier this year because the Kayak Adventure Series was up in Wisconsin. And if you saw the thumbnail to this video, tell us about that fish that you sent me a picture of that I used in the thumbnail. Because you said that's a northern fish, and you were like, when we were talking about going north, you were like, this is why you want to come north.
yeah. I caught that. I was that was pretty far up north, but it was on the Wisconsin River, and it was in the spring of this year. It was 20 inches, and it weighed just under 6 pounds. So yeah,
Huge.
it was pretty cool. Like obviously just an absolute monster of a fish, and that's the type of fish that places like the Wisconsin River put out, and that's why we go north.
Oh yeah, I trust me. I understand why. I was following some of the threads and like the Smallie games talk and whatnot, and there's a guy that was posting, lives up around Ontario, was talking about he's 30 minutes away from some of the best Smallie fishing ever, and why would he ever want to leave? And honestly, I get that when I see pictures of various Smallies that guys are catching. I mean, being a 12-incher, it's your first one, or these giants. It's pretty cool for me, and as you know, it's kind of like a whole new adventure. It's like I'm 14 again, just starting to learn how to fish. It's all brand new, and it's like you don't know until you know, and then once you know, you can't get enough of it. So tell us a little bit about your Army background, what you do now, and then kind of get into us how you got into targeting smallmouth bass, and then how you ended up targeting with the kayak. So kind of tell us for those who don't know you, if
Yeah.
you're not from Indiana, and know who you are, because most of the rest of us do, but tell everybody, a little bit about yourself and how you got into it.
Yeah. So I actually grew up in a small town in Oregon called Brookings, Oregon. And it's right on the coast, just north of the California border. And in that area, there aren't bass. I never caught a smallmouth bass until I moved to Indiana. But I graduated high school from out there, joined the Army, joined as a 13 Bravo, so artillery. I was a cannon crew member. I think I joined, it was 2007. So right in the middle of all the craziness going on,
Yeah.
and ended up going to the 101st Airborne Division. I was with them the 4.5 years I was in, did 2 deployments to Afghanistan, both 12 months long. One was 2008, and the other one was 2008, 2009. The other one was 10 to 11. So those are the years I was over there. So after that, I moved to Indiana because my dad retired from where he worked out in California Department of Corrections, just across the border into California. And they're originally from here, Crawfordsville area. So that's why I'm out here. So when I got out, I wanted to stay close to them. So I get out of the Army, I come up here to Indiana, never lived here in my life. Back up a little bit. And all I did growing up was fish, but it was trout. It was trout, mainly trout. And all I would do was I would throw a Panther Martin on a spinning reel and catch trout. It's just a little inline spinner. And I did that my whole childhood. We had like a little campground upriver on the Checo River, which is the campground was like 3 miles upriver before it goes into the ocean. And I would just walk up and down that river all day, every day in the summer and fish for trout. And it, I was addicted to fishing from a very early age. And
True river rat from the beginning.
I really was. And
Yep.
it kind of comes full circle here. But so I did that, joined the Army. Obviously in the Army, I didn't really have time to do anything.
Yeah.
And which sucks because I was stationed at Fort Campbell, which is like right there, Kentucky Lakes right there.
Kentucky Lake, yeah.
All those nice rivers down there. I could have been fishing, but obviously I was a little preoccupied.
Yes.
And then I get out, I move up here, and my first few years, I work at a place called Masterguard, which is an automotive industry. We made bumpers.
Okay.
End up meeting my wife while I'm working there. I was a process engineer there. Met my wife at a restaurant here in town, and we start talking, we start dating, and then one day, because I basically stopped fishing, which obviously is terrible, and I didn't know anything about fishing out here. Again, I don't know. I might have caught 2 bass my whole entire life, like largemouth. Never caught a smallmouth ever. And she's like, "Hey, you want to go out to this farm pond and catch some bass?" And I'm like, "Of course." We were dating at the time for a while, and it was a family farm pond. And I was like, "Of course I do. That sounds fun." So I didn't even have any tackle. So I borrowed spinning rod and I threw on what I knew how to throw, which was a little inline spinner bait. And we start fishing and I start catching some fish, and it ignited that fire, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Uh-oh, here we go." So from there, I get really into the largemouth scene. I bought a bass boat, started doing that whole thing, fishing out of the boat, and then through social media, I meet some people like Derek Burton, Hoosier State Fishing.
Oh yeah.
Seen a lot of Josh Franco stuff,
Yeah.
all those guys, the Smallie Talk dudes, and a guy at work tells me, "Hey, that creek that runs through Crawfordsville, Sugar Creek, is like an awesome fishery, smallmouth." And I'm like, "What's a smallmouth bass?" Like, I don't know what the hell that is. So I look up on YouTube, of course, as we do. How do you catch a smallmouth bass? And it says you throw a tube. So I went out and I bought a tube, and I remember walking down to the creek, and I got my fishing pole and my tube, and I put the tube in the water, which is right next to a tree, just to see what it looks like in the water. And like 17-inch small comes out from under that tree and smokes it. And I'm like, and from then I was like, "Holy crap, this is awesome."
I couldn't imagine having a 17 smoky right out the gate. He's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, the needle has been injected."
Yeah, so I'm like, "Holy smoke, these are different. These smallmouth are built a little different." And
Yeah.
I think a few weeks later, me and my wife, we took a canoe trip. We like rented canoes from the canoe place here in town.
Yeah.
And this would have been probably 2017 is when I really got into it. And we went out on that. We had a blast. We both caught a ton of fish. The next day, we go to Dick's Sporting Goods, buy those little sitting kayaks,
Oh yeah. That's what we started in. Yep.
And it was on from then, man. I got rid of my boat, all my largemouth gear. I sold it, and it was just on from then, chasing smallmouth, man. And it's pretty much what I've been doing ever since. And just through social media, got in contact with like again Derek and Josh, and getting to learn from those guys. Adam Leppert, him too, with To Everything Outdoors. He's a super good dude. And
I really want to get up there and fish with him one of these days too. That'd be amazing.
You got to. He's a stud, man, and he's always on the water too.
Yeah, you can tell.
Always. Yeah, and he's obviously an addict too. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I started the tournament thing with Grubby back in 2020, and I thought I was good. That's the funny thing about it is,
yeah. I think we all get that feeling
yeah,
sometimes.
I was like, I'm good. I'm gonna do fine in these tournaments. First tournament ever was on Sugar Creek. Didn't catch a fish.
Yep.
Second tournament ever, I caught one fish, put it on the board, took a picture, sent it in, told my dad, say, hey, I got my first fish finally. He texts back, you forgot your identifier. I was like, okay, so if you guys are struggling out there, it gets better. It gets better. So that was 2020, 4 years ago, and then every year since, I just been getting more and more into it, and that's all I do is I chase smallmouth now, and I've got 5 kayaks in the garage. You know, I actually just had to retire my river rig
I
today.
saw that.
A sad day, man.
Yeah.
But
so was that like a warranty replacement? Is that why you had to chop it up, or was it just beyond
no,
use?
it's just dude. I was trying to like calculate how many miles I might have on that, and I kept coming to like, I know this is gonna sound crazy, but like 800. I bet it has over 800 river miles on it.
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, it doesn't shock
Maybe
me.
9, maybe even 1,000. I don't know, but that was like the rig I really learned out of. And
yeah,
it's kind of sad to see it go. But luckily, I found another one on Facebook Marketplace, so I got another one in the garage. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Growing up in Oregon, you don't have the. It's very different than it is here, and the community is amazing. Grubby's awesome.
Yep.
I mean, it is such a cool group of guys and girls. Everyone's willing to help. There's no shame in it. If you think you're going to get laughed out of there, it's not true. Because again, I was there. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
We all started that way. I mean, and that's one thing I love about Grubby is it is the biggest kayak club in the Midwest, probably. I mean, and there's more tournaments. I mean, any type of way you want to fish anywhere in Indiana, you want to fish, there are tournament, trails for it too, but both river and lake. But I mean, we just kind of cover everywhere. That's what makes it really nice, and there's a lot of reach in it.
Yeah.
And the folks that are watching now saw me hosting Grubby Talk. After one guy stepped down, and then we've had Antoine and Nate pick up and take over. Pass the torch on to them, and the club just keeps growing and growing, and that's incredible thing about this too. And the one thing I love about the community, I mean, I remember my very first experience with some of the Grubby guys, and I probably couldn't even tell you who it was. It might have been Jim. But I remember the Navy base that I worked on when we closed down for the pandemic. I had already sold all my boat and everything else because we got into kayak fishing because of a small little lake on the bottom of the base that was just loaded with giants. But they wouldn't let us back on base during the stuff because they didn't want to have gate guards having to work and this and that. So I was like, well, shoot, I need to go fish somewhere. So I show up at Boggs one day with my kayak, and as I'm putting my little Future Beach, whatever, Angler 144 with a bucket on the back in the water, these 3 dudes roll up and, full tricked out fishing kayaks. And I'm like, man, y'all got some rigs. I said, I didn't realize anybody else kayak fished. They're like, oh yeah, we're just finishing up a tournament. Oh boy, I heard tournament, and then it was over after that. It was like, kayak tournaments? What?
Yeah.
And then I learned about, Heroes on the Water, KBF, Grubby, and everything changed after that. But I mean, that's the best thing about it. And I remember the next year when I actually fished my first Grubby event at Boggs, I ran into Gary Dennis was one of the first guys I ran into on the water. And I was talking about, man, I need to catch a keeper. I keep catching all these dinks. I can't. And he's like, dude, in this club, everything counts. And I'd probably already thrown 6 or 7, 9 and 10 inches back in the water. He's like, no, dude, put them on the board. In this club, we encourage everybody to catch, fish. And so there's if it's a bass, then put it on the board. And then from there, I was addicted. I've loved trying to fish. I hadn't really focused on any of the series, but I wanted to go fish like 1 or 2 in each of the different places, just because it's a great way to go meet a lot of different people and go to different places that I would never go. But and that's what's really awesome about it. And then of course, one grubby event, Columbus River.
Yeah.
Have the best day of my life, catching a bunch of dinks. Ended up in third, and I've been kind of hooked on this, ever since. And it's, as you know, when we talked, it's been like a motivation behind a lot of my weight loss and getting in shape and, being able to go and do more and this and that. And, I had some pipe dreams that I wanted to go do this year, just visiting different places and whatnot. But next year is going to be a whole lot of chasing bronze, with the number one event on my mind being up in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
In June or July, which I think it was July. That's when that is. So yeah, that's the number one priority for there. So speaking to that kayak adventure series, we took a trip this year because Drew Gregory, and they've been hosting some events in different places. But we got to talking about Wisconsin. I saw you were going, and I was like, man, I need to go do this. And boy, am I glad I did, because thanks to you, obviously, kind of taking me under your wing and putting us in areas where, dude, where we were was where I think everybody but Christine that was in the top, the guys that won it. And, we were in the right area for sure. And, man, talk a little bit about, what you liked about the place, and kind of do a little recap of your trip up there.
Yeah, no, it was man, what a cool format. That whole like afternoon Friday deal is neat. The only thing bad about it was I was like freaking out all day Friday. It was just so foreign, to not be on the water and stuff. But it was obviously cool getting to chill with everybody before and then getting to go. And funny story. So I think I told you this, but I'm looking into campgrounds, on the Kayak Adventure Series website, and I'm just looking at them. I'm calling all them to try to get something set up. I call one, the price is right, everything's cool. It's centrally located, and I'm getting ready to pay the guy, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, this is a clothing optional campground." I'm like, we don't lead with that. And at the same time, why was it on the website? Like, but whatever. I mean, to each their own. No hate, but I was like, oh, okay, never mind. But just a funny story about that. But no, the series was awesome, man. It was cool. The whole Friday, I had to leave early, unfortunately, which family deal, no big deal. But getting to fish with you, seeing you, I think you caught your PB, tied your PB right in front of me.
PB twice in that week, yeah.
I mean, and that's the stuff I live for, man. I love seeing people catch those big smallmouth, seeing them get hooked on that bronze, dude. It wasn't getting better, man. And then the
well, what? Technically, that was my PB, the one that when you were coming from downriver.
Yeah.
Because weight wise, I mean, that was 4.2. I know the 20 that I caught here in Indiana wasn't that big. So yeah, that was definitely the biggest one, and then the heaviest one I've ever caught. And you got to watch me fight and scream, and
it was cool. I love it, man. That's what it's all about, dude.
But I mean, I listened to everything you said, just the drag, and but I was. Whenever I get around to getting this video edited, which should be coming up pretty soon, I've got a couple more in the series. You guys are going to hear me giggling like a child, because he's probably a few hundred yards upriver from me, but kind of staying back as he's watching me fight this fish. And I'm laughing and screaming, and this fish is just jumping, and I know it's a giant. And I'm sitting here, I kind of reminded myself of that kid who caught his PB on the spinner bait, and he's like, "It's a PB, it's a PB."
Yeah, that was cool.
That's pretty much the mode that I was in. But I mean, that fish was just so huge,
and you did everything right too.
And that was, I mean, that was that. I mean, but I listened. I mean, I've been trying to pay attention what everybody talks about and things to focus on and learn. And oh man, but
and it was another thing about up there is it's more of a laid back vibe, which is cool. It's not that like maybe Bassmaster or Hobie vibe. It's, and everyone still wants to win, and there's still hammers in it, and it's just a little bit more relaxed, which was cool. I had a blast, man. Getting to watch you, fish, and you did fantastic, man. I think obviously you did really well
Yeah.
with how you placed and everything. Like you took everything to heart. You did great. And
Yeah, it
even
was.
with like the people don't realize when it comes to rivers, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's you got current you got to deal with. There's so many more things you got to deal with on a river. Even the shuttle is
Yeah.
a pain sometimes, but we
Yeah.
did fine. We did great. And that's what you got to do is you got to find a good partner that you can do that with when it comes to those river events. And I
Yeah.
think we both did really well.
And it was kind of funny too because it was an entirely different river experience than anything I've gone through because I started my training, if you will, in the White River in Indiana, which translated probably closer to the Susquehanna than it did up there because after the Susquehanna, I was like, okay, skinny water rocks. I don't need my electronics. I don't need it. So I take all this stuff off except for my motor. And then I get up there. Oh no, there's deep water, sandbars. It was completely different.
Yeah,
I was like, sure would like to know how deep it is. So I quit running up on these sandbars. But
yeah,
I mean, lessons learned. But you know what? I just went fishing and, like I said, pay attention to the eddies and the bluff walls and things like that. And I kind of figured out what they wanted for me anyway, and it was just a freaking smash fest. And
hmm
yeah, had I not gotten probably a little greedy on day 2 and decided to make a long run south and then work my way back up, I probably could have hit the 2 or 3 bluff walls where we were ramped at and yeah, who knows what could have happened. But I had to catch that 119 and a half way down.
yeah,
So I was like, I'm gonna go back and hit that area. But I did. I lost a big one down there too. But I mean, it was totally incredible. But again, hats off to Drew. And I'm telling you, dude, if we'd both been together both days, that team trophy, I'm feeling like we would have been
I
because
know. Yeah, I agree.
I feel like we were you put us in the spot and on the juice.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm looking forward to we gotta get a little Freedom Squad revenge at some time in the future.
Oh yeah, that St. Cloud event, man. Ooh,
Oh, dude. Oh, I
that's gonna
can't wait.
be you. The so just so everyone knows that Wisconsin stretch that we were on was pretty far south, like downstream, and it's good, but you go north on the Wisconsin River, whew,
Yeah.
they,
The guys
it's
from the guys
crazy
from
good.
there, the guys from Minnesota, they were talking. I was like, dude, just wait till you go.
Yeah,
And I was like, I can't even imagine. I mean, because like I said, I was like a kid, just at Christmas, just catching them, and
yeah,
catching them. And it's like I couldn't do any wrong. I mean, it was wild. But that
yeah.
was probably one of the best. That's probably the absolute best fishing trip that I've ever taken in my life. I mean, it was that good. That is someplace I could go and spend an entire week
Mhm.
and just veg and live life. It was truly incredible. I'm telling you guys, if you're watching out there, listening on the podcast, if you want to do one major event next year that's fun and laid back, the Kayak Adventure Series up in St. Cloud, Minnesota is going to be the place that you want to be. I mean, if I could only pick one trip, that's including the national championship, the Bassmaster Classic, that St. Cloud, Minnesota trip is the one guaranteed that I will be there.
Yeah, there's so much water up there too. Like
I can't.
it's unreal how good it is up there. You think what we just did was good, man? Times that by 10, and that's what the saying. I'm not
I
kidding.
can't. I can't wait. I'm
I've
going to
been
build a
talking
new
to
kayak just for that. We've been talking about
I've been talking to
that.
some
I will
guys
have
about
a
that.
river kayak ready to go by next summer for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one.
Oh yeah, 100%. So let's move back home a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your season and the events that you fished because you brought home this last weekend. You brought home a lot of hardware. I mean, when I'm sitting here looking and I'm counting, and I'm like, he was
Yeah,
he was a
fished a
little bit
lot.
on fire.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I fished every Grubby series, river series. That is. There
Yep.
was 5 of them. The only tournaments I missed there was 3 St. Joe's because man, that's a hike for me to get up there.
Yeah.
And then I missed the last Columbus one just because of I didn't have a chance to win AOI, and I was wore out from the year. But
Yeah.
the AOIs I did get were Sugar Creek, so my home creek, which was super super cool, and I'm like really proud of that one. It's the creek I learned how to smallmouth fish on. So, you know, it's where I caught my first ever smallmouth. It's where I realized I wasn't that good, and then you know, and then was able to put it together and do pretty good. And then the other
Now
one
that's
was
a real now, because I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit as we go
yeah,
through some of these. Sugar Creek, as I understand, is a real shallow water kind of an area. Is there a
yes,
specific setup that, because like you said, when you got 5 kayaks, you're taking it kind of serious.
yeah.
But I mean, do you have a specific kayak kind of set up for fishing super skinny stuff, or where you're dragging a lot, or kind of tell us a little bit about how you approach? Because I watched Antoine and Nate with their big boats and motors, and
Feel bad. I kind of
yeah,
did that to them. My bad.
yeah,
But whatever. Yeah, the when you're going on Sugar Creek, you don't need pedal drive. You don't need a motor. Well, it's not that you don't need them. You won't be able to use them.
yeah, just too shallow.
And you want to be as light as possible because you're going to have to drag, especially with the last few years. We've had, as everyone knows, it hasn't rained. Well, it's raining now, but it hasn't.
Yeah,
You know, we haven't had any rain in forever, and pretty bad drought conditions. So the lighter, the better. I don't bring a lot of rods. I bring at most when I'm on Sugar Creek, I'll bring 3 rods.
oh, okay.
That's at most. More often than not, it's 2. Half the time, I won't even bring my crate. Again, I don't bring an anchor. I've got my creek rig I use is the Wilderness Systems Recon 120
Okay.
without the drive, of course, and it is a fantastic creek / small river rig, and I think it's completely underrated. Mainly because everyone thinks of it as having a drive, and without the drive, it's great. It's 36 inches wide. You can stand up all day in it.
Yeah, okay.
It's light. It's not a heavy rig. And those are all things you probably want to take into consideration when you're fishing Sugar Creek. You don't need a lot out there.
Yeah. Do you find yourself wading and fishing more than you do actually sitting in the yak, or?
Yeah, this year, yeah.
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 Okay.
This just to give you an idea of what it's like. I did my last tournament on Sugar Creek. I always wear my Apple Watch. I did a 10-mile float. I ended up having 15,000 steps by the end of it, and that's
So,
dead serious. So yeah,
so I think 10,000 steps is 5 miles. So, but yeah, it's you were doing some. Yeah, you just basically were pulling your fishing wagon with you as you were walking the creek. I got you. Okay.
But I think a big part of what I do is I throw a fluke a lot. Like that's where I catch most of my fish on. You know, in the slow, clear conditions, I don't think you can really beat a fluke.
Yep.
It's just, especially if they're eat man, it's perfect. But the biggest thing with that is I'm standing up in my kayak, so that's why I like that 36-inch width of that Wilderness Systems Recon 120. I'm tall, so and I'm like 6'4", 220. I have no problem standing up in that thing all day long.
Yeah.
And I have to stand up when I'm throwing a fluke. So I like being able to watch my bait, and those indicators from you're going to learn a lot when you're watching your bait. That's I think where a lot of people go wrong is they'll be looking at everything else, but you need to key in on that bait, and that's pretty much the way to catch them on Sugar Creek, especially if it's low and clear. And obviously top water is really good on Sugar Creek too, but it's rock bottom, real hard, shallow, fast moving water, and it's beautiful. It's for sure the most pretty river in the state.
Oh, wow, really? Yeah. So I definitely come shoot a video on that place for sure.
Yeah, if you do, I'll take you on a stretch. We'll go on a stretch. You'll be blown away.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So you like to throw a fluke a lot. Are you a straight fluoro kind of guy? Do you do braided leader? What's your are you worried about hiding your line from the smallies?
Yeah, I got a funny story about this. So braided leader, I usually use 15-pound braid and I always use 8-pound test.
Okay.
Seaguar Tatsu. That's my favorite line. I love it as a leader. I tie FG knot, so it's a pretty tough knot, but I think confidence is key, and I'm got a ton of confidence in that knot.
Yeah.
And then with the fluke, I'm just tying on a little 1/0. I think it's an Aaron Martin's drop shot hook, so it's a small hook. And then I just nose hook the fluke, and I got a 7-1 X Bride, and then I got a Vanford paired with it.
Yeah.
So super light rig. It's pretty much, it's medium light. It's only used, I can only use it for flukes and maybe Senkos, if I could probably get away with that. But yeah, that's how I throw it. And really long leader. This is where I'm getting at with that funny story. So a day before the championship, my partner asked me, "Hey, how long a leader do you tie?" And I usually tie 14 foot. That's how long a leader I always tie. And I told him 14 inches.
Oh no.
Not realizing it, right? So the next day he's fishing behind me, he's not catching crap, and he comes up to me, he's like, "Dude, I tied a longer leader than you and I'm not catching any fish." And I'm like, "What, you tied like a 20-foot leader or something?" He's like, "No, I tied like a 20 inch. You told me 14 inches. So it matters, because he was fishing behind me, not catching crap.
Yeah.
He changes over to that long leader and he starts catching them.
Yep.
But yeah, that's my setup, and I've got my PB on it. I don't know how many 20s I've caught on that setup. It's a lot.
Do you like the high vis line, or do you do like the camo to kind of hide it? Yep.
Now I don't care about my line. I care about my bait. That's another reason I don't throw any like natural colored flukes, like green pumpkin, or I throw white pearl.
Yep.
And one of the biggest things is I want to see my bait, but if I'm looking at my bait and my bait disappears, it means there's a fish.
You got to set the hook. Yeah.
That's why I set the hook, right? So that's the reason I throw that white pearl. That's all I have. I literally stock up over the winter. Every time I go to Walmart, I'll take the whole shelf and I'll have a huge Plano box full of only those white flukes. And I've already ran out. I ran out of those 2 months ago.
Wow.
So
now, are you a traditional Zoom fluke kind of guy, or?
Yep. Okay. Zoom fluke. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, because I know Shrenko's a big fan of the nose hook deal.
Yeah, he's honestly who I learned how to throw it on from. He kind of taught me the ropes when it comes to that type of stuff.
Yeah, I can see that. And it's a fun bait too, because you can skip it anywhere that you need to. I mean, you can make it. I've seen Drew Gregory talk a lot about burning them across the top, and even especially this time of year when you got a lot of leaves in the water, it still comes over the top of a lot of that stuff too if you need to. Do you ever get into, like, I can't remember his name, our guy from Two Everything Outdoors.
Adam. Yeah.
Adam. I see him throw like a yellowish kind of a fluke often. Yeah. I wonder if that's it because the water's maybe a little more stained up there, or is he just trying to trigger something a little different?
I fish with him a lot, and he's always throwing these off-colored things that I would never throw, but he's always catching fish.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Right?
Yeah. He knows what he's doing. I know that. So it works for him.
Yeah. So after Sugar Creek, what was your next one?
Yeah, then White River, won the White River AOI, and that's also another one I'm real proud of. That's the toughest river to win in Indiana.
A lot of people spend a lot of time on that river. I know that.
Yeah, it's the most fished river for sure in Indiana, and along with tournament wise too. And I had a fantastic year. On the White River, it's a little bit different. You got a little bit deeper sections. It's more urban. Yeah. You're through towns and cities and stuff. But the one thing I think is funny is it's so underrated. It's so underrated. There's so many big fish in there. You talk to a lot of old timers and they're like, "There's no fish in there. They're all it's just a polluted mess." And it probably was back in the day. I don't know. But now it's good. It pumps out big numbers. Over 90-inch bags caught off of it.
I was going to say, Terry McWilliams has been catching smallies up on that river for the last 30 plus years. Yeah. Jacob Wheeler cut his teeth up on that river. I mean, it's groomed some studs to catch, let alone, because there's largemouth and smallies in there. Yeah. Because I know Justin Cavett loves to put in. He'll go chase the largemouth in a lot of places, and then once you find the different areas and start learning a little more, you can really get into some good smallies up there too. What are some of your favorite baits on the river up there?
Man, I killed it on a 3 baits this year on the White River. It was a chatterbait. I like throwing the Evo, the 3/8 ounce, and I usually just throw the white one. If the water's real dirty, I'll throw the white and chartreuse, and then the fluke, of course. And then I had a really good year on top water on the plopper, the 120. And
I forgot one of your ploppers, by the way, but
it's all good. You earned it.
I'll go catch a PB on it. You know how it goes.
Yeah. So those are my 3 baits I really caught fish on, like, consistently throughout the year.
Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because it's like there's so many different styles in the way you catch them. Because I know a lot of people, oh, you got to throw a Ned rig, oh, you got to drag a jig, or I've tried that so many times, and I can't complain about the Ned rig because it's caught me some good fish this year as I've learned to throw it more. But it seems like I'm tying a new one on every 5 minutes because it's always it's always getting hung up, caught, whatever. But it's like I fished the whole White River event, didn't catch a damn smallmouth the whole day. I think I put 1 13-inch largemouth on the board, of course.
Yeah.
And then 2 hours after line's out, I'm still floating down the Broad Ripple. And before I get to the I don't know what you call it, the pool where it opens up into Broad Ripple, my brother and my buddy Bobby convinced me to tie a Ned rig on. So I throw on a little Berkeley, little trooper on a Ned. Probably 2 casts later, catch a 17.5-inch smallmouth. Still made my day.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't have my IKA tag with me. So my big fish so far this year is a 16.5-incher, which I really need to upgrade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know we've got probably a few weeks left before the end of the season, but time's running out really fast. I need to get on the river somewhere.
There's no end of the season, man.
This is true. This is true.
Hey, if you want to catch a big one, we'll go in late December, January.
Yeah, well, I told you I was getting into so for a little story background that for those of you who don't know, Alex knows this, but a couple years ago, or I think it was maybe last year, the end of the season, I found some NRS wader pants, heavy, like rain gear pants or something that you would fish in the river with, but they only had so many sizes. So it was one of those things. Well, I know I got to buy these, but I got some work to do before I can get into them. And I'm now to the point where I can zip the zipper up, still a little snug. But Alex is like, keep doing the work because about the time it gets cold, you're going to want them damn pants.
Oh yeah.
So it's like I told him, I'm still working because we're gonna go chase some big fish over the winter time too. So looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
But so that's the White River. What else did you fish?
I mean, I fished every series, Tippy, St. Joe, Columbus, and
now, Tippy. Talk a little bit about Tippy because I think that a lot of people, they've heard of the Tippy Canoe River if they've, heard anything about fishing up here. I should ask, what of all of the lakes is your favorite, I guess, for catching numbers of bigger fish?
Rivers? The Tippy probably.
Okay.
So the Tippy it's going to be your biggest. Well, the St. Joe's kind of big too. Well, it's like closest to us, but it's one of the bigger rivers. It's where you can get your big rigs out on, your motors and stuff. So obviously you got Lake Schaefer and what's the other one? Lake Freeman.
Oh, Freeman and Schaefer's are up there. Yeah.
So under those lakes is a completely different river than up above both those lakes. They're just completely different. So you got the dam, and then from there down to the Wabash is a good 20-mile stretch.
Yep. And
then above the two lakes, you've got another however many mile stretch of pretty good water. It's a really good fishery. It really is. And that's the place. I'll keep that to myself. That's the place. We'll talk about that later. But it's a good fishery. It's so diverse up there too. You'll catch walleye, you'll catch sauger.
Oh wow, okay.
Drum. Anytime I go up there, you're going to catch like 4 or 5 different species of fish. It's pretty neat. And I've done above the dam and I've done below the dam. And I did win one of the grubby events up there below the dam, all on top water. So I
Oh,
caught,
wow.
I think it was 87 inches all on top water. So, and it was I mean, catching 87 inches anywhere is fun, but doing it with top water is pretty neat. So it's a good fishery. A lot of, I mean, rock, a lot of rock, you know, that good substrate, pretty fast moving. It's pretty wide. It's a good float if you want to bring a few guys with you.
Yeah.
Cause you can spread out. You're not going to be fishing on top of each other.
Oh yeah.
That's below the dam. Above the dam, it's a little different. It's probably more like the White River.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an awesome fishery.
Yeah, I need to get up. I've been up as far as the Wabash there south of Lafayette with Hook Life. But I haven't been on the Tippy yet. That's one of the goals. That was going to be one of the things I did this year, and then I ended up traveling a lot more than I expected. But you know, there's always next year.
Yeah, it's a good fishery, man. It's awesome. The St. Joe is amazing up there. It's you catch some of the fish, and you can tell they got that northern strain in them, if you know what I mean. They starting to look a little different, starting to feel a little different. I actually fish the Elkhart because you can fish the St. Joe or the Elkhart.
Okay.
And I was able to win 2 tournaments up there on the Elkhart, and it's chock full of grass. Super unique, nothing like down here. It's very different, and it's a cool fishery. A lot of big fish in there. I wish more people would have fished that series, but I get it. It's a hike getting up there.
It's a hike from you to get there, and I'm 2 hours south of you, so I get it.
Yeah, it was a 3-hour one-way drive for me, so
yeah,
that was rough. I think Jamie Young won the AOI up there.
Oh, okay.
So she did fantastic up there.
Wow.
And then I also fished the Columbus one, and I fished the Flat Rock most of the time down there for that tournament. And yeah, it's a good fishery. The cool thing about down there is you got, what is there, like 3 or 4 rivers you really can fish. You got Flat Rock, Driftwood, Blue, Sugar, and then the Columbus. So there's a ton of water down there, and all these rivers are so different from each other. It's pretty neat.
So, I really want to start focusing around Columbus because I've tried to find them down here where I'm at, but I think Columbus is really going to be the closest thing to me. And you know, if I'm going to start trying to learn an area that's, you know, hour and a half away, it's about an hour 15, which in general that's about my normal drive anyway. So I think I'm going to spend a lot more time, you know, working on Driftwood and then that Sugar Creek that runs up near Atterbury, you know, in those kind of areas too, just because they're close. Then of course I'll drive up and see you guys, you know, farther north too. But I realize I'm going to have to just make a drive if I'm going to put in the work to learn to just get better at chasing smallmouth. But I mean, it'll be worth it. And I know it, you know, and I'm wanting to build a you know, I told you I was going to probably put together an RVR, that I can either throw a motor on or not, depending on, you know, kind of what's going on. But like you said, keep something light, but I can motorize if I want to, but you know, easy to drag and do all that as well too. So all of the series wrap up. We have our Grubby Championship this past weekend on the White River, which I'm sure everybody was happy about because that is, you know, that is like the stretch, you know, that anybody in the state, whether you're at the bottom of the state or top of the state, you know, that's kind of the spot. Tell us a little bit about your tournament. He was telling me before we started, your morning started out with 32-degree weather.
Yeah, it was cold. So go to the prior day. So Friday, me and a guy named Travis Bowles, we're shuttling and doing the whole thing together. We pre-fished. We didn't do the section we were going to do for the tournament, but we pre-fished, and it wasn't that cold that day. So those fish were munching, man. And I heard it from a lot of different guys that they caught pre-fishing. We were hammering them. So I bet I had mid 80s within 4 hours pre-fishing.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of laid off them, you know, and I was like, okay, I already know what I want to do. I'm going to throw a fluke all day tomorrow. That's what I'm doing. that's what they were eating. I ended up catching a bunch of largemouth. I caught 3 17s largemouth in pre-fishing. And so come tournament day, I'm thinking I've got to get. I honestly thought I was going to take 90 to win it. I was like, it's going to be 90 probably or close to it. So, we get there. It's obviously freezing, 32 degrees. It's super cold. Side note, it was opening day of duck season. So there were duck hunters everywhere, which I didn't even know was a thing. Yeah. So that was awesome, trying to not get shot by those guys. So yeah, tournament day starts. I go to my put-in, and there's 10 guys there with me. Yeah. And if anyone knows me, I do not like fishing around people. Yeah. That's half the reason I do those further up north stretches, and I always pick a 10-mile stretch, 10-mile of river stretch. Yeah. And that's so I can get distance in between me and whoever else I need to get distance in between. So start of the day, it's slow, man. Started off slow. That cold had to obviously put those fish into a pretty negative mood. And I'm going along, nothing's working. And about 9 o'clock, I pull out the old deadly Nedley, which I hate throwing the Ned Rig more than anything in the world.
Slow, then something's up.
Yeah, I hate it. And I'm like, and it was an afternoon bite that we figured out in pre-fish. So I knew it was probably going to pick up, but I didn't think it was going to be that dead. Yeah. So I pick up the Ned Rig. Pretty quick after I pick that up, I crack into an 18.75. And I'm like, okay, that's a good first fish. Yeah. I probably need 3 more of these though. So keep going. For whatever reason, I'm catching another fish on the Ned Rig, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So it starts to get about noon. Pick up the Ned Rig or the fluke, and the reason I wait till noon is so a little bit of sun up, I could see that bait. I can see where I'm throwing it to. I'm standing up, I'm casting, and I start throwing it. And the pattern I found out is not the funnest way to throw a fluke. And like you kind of alluded to it earlier, there's so many different ways you can throw it. Yeah. You just got to figure out what the fish wants. Well, the way I figured it out, what they wanted is they wanted it dead sticked in deep current with like really good substrate. It was the only way I could catch fish.
Just let the current walk it down the rocks and just leave it be.
Yeah, usually I would cast to the bank, and positioning is everything. So I would be on one side or the other, all the way on the side or the other. Yeah. Cast to the other bank. I'd work it into that deeper water, and then I just let it sit.
Wow.
And I don't know how many times I saw fish go up to my, like they do, like here's your fluke, they come up to it, and then as soon as they see it, they just turn. I saw that so many times. And it was frustrating, and luckily I was able to get a few of them to bite and coax them to bite, and that's how I pretty much caught them all day. And I obviously see some of my buddies on the water. There's 10 dudes, so of course I'm going to see people, and they're saying it's real tough. They've got like high 60s, and I'm thinking there's no way the 84 is going to win. And so going to the word ceremony, it's kind of spinning out in my head. I'm like, I really wanted to win this, obviously. Yeah. It's a big deal. It's something that I really wanted to I got second earlier this year in the championship. So I really wanted to win it, and get to the championship, they start reading off 10th place, and they're reading off the inches, and I'm like, I might have this. You start getting up into 5th place, and they're still talking about 60 inches. I'm like, this is a little weird, and ended up, winning it by a decent margin. And it was tough. I worked super hard for those fish that I put in the boat, and man, it was fun. It was cool.
I think Missy had a little premonition when she was announcing that she was going to live stream it, and I was like, oh, a little foreshadowing going on here.
Yeah. And of course,
I was happy as hell to watch, because I'm glad she did that.
Yeah.
Because, when I was sitting there kind of watching it, I had just gotten off the water when they got it done. And then I probably started and picked it up around 5th or 6th. And, and I was like, They haven't called Alex's name yet. And then
Yeah.
bang.
Yeah, I saw that second place. I was like, I think it was 71 inches. I was like,
He was like, okay.
but I mean, honestly, I probably do my best fishing when it's tough.
Yeah.
And it's just the way I like to fish, and um, it worked out for me. Yeah, I mean, dead stick and a fluke in deep water is not exactly the funnest, but
Yeah.
you know, being able to read the fish and get them to bite, because there was a lot of fish that would nose up to it, and I would get them to bite. You know, I'd have to do some magic and get them to bite, but it was tough. And
How many
then
fish do you think you caught the whole day?
I caught a lot,
Yeah.
probably 40.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean they were small.
Yeah.
But the thing is like I could cast to those shallower spots and catch the small fish, but I knew where the big fish were.
Yep.
So I mean, that's the thing about tournament fishing. You're not out there to catch 40 fish. You're out there to catch 5 good fish.
Exactly. Yep.
So it's one of those payoff things. You know, if I'm going out for fun, yeah, I'll catch 100 fish. But if I'm in a tournament, I'm trying to catch 5 fish that are big.
Yeah.
So
you were targeting the deeper holes then. Just yeah.
literally dead sticking, a little bit of current, and like the good substrate, and that's where those big fish were hiding and chilling. Literally, because it was freezing. So yeah, it was a fun day.
Yeah.
Real happy about it. I think everyone, pretty happy about it being on the white and stuff. Yeah, I think it's a good river. I think every championship probably should be on the white. I mean, it's right there.
Dude, yeah, it's
central. So
yep. And there's plenty of it to spread the anglers out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you get to a ramp and there's 20 people there, I mean, there's plenty of other places to get to as well. And if you want to pick up a movie, you can too. But what kind of cool prizes do they have for the grand champion of the River Series?
Dude, I won. I'm literally, my phone's propped up on a box of baits, and I've got a ton of stuff. Gift cards for all the AOYs. I think I have a $1,500 gift card for Moving Water Outfitters. So I'm getting a motor.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed you the value of the motor at some point in time.
Yeah, you did. No, seriously. I've seen it from you and Shranko. Like, especially if you do those big national events, you kind of, it's not that you have to have one, but you're at a pretty big disadvantage if you don't have one.
I think if you're going to be fishing the bigger, even the kayak adventure or the Bassmaster type stuff, they're going to be on rivers that are bigger than normal. You're not going to be dragging through creeks very much. I think but that's still, I mean, yeah. And I obviously love the motor because I was able to cover a lot of water, even in pre-fishing when we were up there, and and then find kind of the spots. And if I'd have settled down and focused on a couple of spots, who knows what could have happened. But I mean, after a couple of days like that, just to get into all the ones that I did, knowing I lost one day one at practice, that the dude who won it caught the 20, or like right there on that corner where I was, right there at our ramp.
Yeah.
But I mean, just being up there was completely insane. So like you guys said, it gets even better the farther north you go. Oh, I can't wait.
And I think we did as like a partner. Like our strategy, I think was fantastic. We did great. Oh, come on, cat. I've got a cat. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, I think we did. Our game plan was. I think you're right. I think if I would have been able to fish that second day, we would have had some hardware to bring home. You did still, but yeah, you did fantastic, man. That was so cool getting to fish with you. It was fun.
I mean, it's all thanks to you, man. I mean, you really you put me on the right path, and then I kind of paid attention and listened and just, focused. And then once I kind of realized how I could catch them, it was really cool. One of the funnest thing was where I actually applied some largemouth fishing was right there out of that ramp. There's like it's a big flat rock that comes out and then it drops off onto a ledge. And there were some times where I would just sit on the back side of that and throw a jig or a Ned up on top of that and just let it fall off the ledge. And then my line would take off running. But other than that, it was just kind of reading the eddies on the backside of these bluff walls that were deeper and kind of put together a little pattern. But I mean, I felt like the millions of YouTube videos from Jeff Little and Shrenko and Christine and everybody who smallie fishes that makes content like that. I felt like it all came together, and it was just wild too. And then you and I were both even fishing a little bit different, but still just slaying them in our own kind of way.
Yeah.
And once I realized for me that they were short striking a full size jackhammer, when I went down to that smaller mini max, oh, it was money time.
Yeah, and you bring up the like watching videos and stuff of people and like, so when I first started bass fishing, again, I didn't grow up bass fishing. I had no idea how to bass fish, and this was back in 2015 is when I started.
Yeah,
I was the person who taught me how to bass fish was Fluke Master.
Oh yeah.
Which is crazy because I know you know him, and I've met him at I think the indie boat sport show and stuff. But yeah, like watching videos from all these people that have all this great content out there is it helps. But the biggest thing is on the water time.
Time on the water. That's what I tell everybody. It's like I tell everybody, because it's like, oh, you're a YouTuber, you should be like a pro angler. If I wasn't busy making YouTube videos, I could probably be a better angler because I'd spend more time fishing than editing. But, I told some friends that I took a month off in September, and I was like, you know what? I ain't editing nothing. I'm going to go out and try to fish. And I'm just going to go put the time in and put some work in. And then, I had fun. took a top 5 in a SIAC event, won a grubby event, and then went up to Wisconsin, and we just absolutely had a smash fest.
Yeah, and it's
probably the best month of fishing I've had ever.
The whole tournament thing for me is I was always in sports growing up and super, super competitive. So not wanting to suck in tournaments makes you become a better fisherman, and then the whole tournament thing, it makes you more efficient.
Yeah.
And I think being efficient on the water is like, it's up there with top things you need to be, because you need to understand time, especially with river floats. You got to be timing and all that stuff. It's so important especially in tournaments. And that's why I think doing the tournaments and doing grubby has, made me pretty decent, smallmouth fisherman.
And see, I burned myself out on fishing tournaments back in the boat days, like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a true burnout. But, I was just like, I'm going to go do other things, coach Little League and do other stuff. And then, take the kids bluegill and whatever fishing. But it's like, as soon as I hop back in a kayak, I met some of the grubby guys. It's like, okay, I'll go fish tournaments, but I'm not going to take them too serious just because I want to keep it fun. I want to promote what we're doing. But, sometimes it's like, that little competition side of me wants to come out and shine a little bit too. So it's kind of funny because I was talking to Fluke Master about that, and he was like, the only reason why I got into tournaments is just to prove to people that, we might be YouTubers, but some people can still fish too.
It's a good way to get humbled too.
Oh yeah, quickly. I mean, I get my ass kicked.
I did big time.
I get my butt kicked all the time, but then sometimes some days it's your time to shine. It's kind of wild. Gene goes, on a whim goes to Canoe and then ends up winning the damn thing and qualifying to go to the Classic. So good on him. So
yeah, that's pretty cool. I've got a saying I always tell myself is anytime you're thinking you're getting that big head, right? You're never as good as you think you are.
No.
You really aren't. And it's a good way to stay humble and stuff like that. Because there were times this year I sucked it up too, but it wasn't all good.
All of us, you go out and skunk one day and then, get on another tournament the next weekend. And then it's just, you're the best fishing you've ever had. But that's for me what fishing is it doesn't matter how many times you go to the same place. Every single time you go, it's a different adventure. So, like we always say, get out when you can and make some memories because, it's something different every time you go.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So anybody you want to give some shout outs to while we're here? I know I told you I'd only keep you for an hour, but
I know you got
a loving wife that supports everything you do, and you support her as well. Because not every dude's going to let his wife jump in a a truck and haul her ass cross country with her bestie to go down and fish, states away. But it's great having a family that supports you like that. But yeah, give us some shout outs from people who take care of you when you're on the road.
Yeah, definitely the wife, obviously. Even though she does the tournament things too, still being away from her for, man, I did over 30 tournaments is a lot. And being understanding and allowing me to do that is awesome. And she had one of the best years, or she had her best year this year, and getting to watch her get better. And like, she was talking about, this blew my mind. She was up on, I can't remember what lake it was, but she's like, she put something together that I thought was super cool. She's like, okay, I seen these bait fish chasing shad. So she ties on a lure, like a flute style bait, and she's chasing these shad balls. Like, that was so cool getting to hear her say that. And because, I mean, how many people have their wives can figure that out? Like, it'd be hard for most dudes to figure out. And so that was really neat. So obviously, huge shout out to her. My dad, he every tournament he follows along. He's in his chair. He's got a calculator next to him, and he's got his phone. And I send him my live well. Every so often, and he like adds up my inches, tells me how far I'm out of first place, tells me where I'm at. Obviously, words of encouragement and stuff like that. So he's like huge help, with all that type of stuff. And then getting to call him every day after a tournament, and just kind of like break down how it went down. The whole like Smallie Talk crew, those guys have let me go to their annual fishing trip, and I got to go the last 2 years, and it's something else. And I've got to learn so much from all those guys, So like Hoosier State Fishing, learned a ton from him. Shranko, he's really showed me the ropes when it comes to this like tournament thing, and he's obviously a stud when it comes to that type of stuff. And and then just like Grubby in general, it's such a good group of people. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think if kayak fishing ever gets as big as like the elites or MLF, I think it would be a fantastic like feeder series into like say if there was like the opens of kayak fishing,
if Bassmaster
like
ever went to like an elite, and then use these for like the opens.
This is such a good format, and it works out so well for everybody. The way you can fish 5 days, or you fish 1 day out of the 5, is amazing. The guys that run it, it's what you said it earlier. It's probably one of the best ran groups in the country.
100%. Yep.
Which is crazy that it's in Indiana.
Yeah.
Like,
that's true.
Because our fishing isn't the best, but
you could literally take this format across the country and have it in every state. I mean, for me, it's great for new kayak anglers, because even if they catch an 8-inch dink, it counts. Being able to pick your day between Thursday and Monday, doesn't matter what shift you're working, if you're in school, everybody gets a day off somewhere between Thursday and Monday. And so just being able to do that and pick the day that you want to fish. I'm off on Fridays because I work 410s. And so it works for me. I go fish on Friday, fish a grubby. I'm also shooting content. But then if my wife's got something planned for Saturday or Sunday, then I've got my fishing in, and I still have the whole weekend left too, let alone a 4-day weekend. And then I can go do it again. But I mean, it's just one of the best formats, ran by great people. Denny and the crew at Tourney X do a good job of programming it so that it works with our format. I just hope they get back on Boggs one of these days, because that's really the only place close to me, because they killed Monroe, because they always save Monroe and Patoka for championships.
Yeah.
Not that I'm in a hurry. Not that I'm in a hurry to go fish Monroe, but I'm going to make that place I'm going to figure that place out again sooner or later, because
And even like the IKA, they do a fantastic job too.
Yes.
I think the fishing community in Indiana is extremely healthy. And
I mean, it's funny, for like you said, we're a smaller state, but we have Grubby, we have IKA, we have SIAC. Then we have
SIAC.
Yep, and then Sam doing the Hoosier Bass, where he brings them all together because now you're going to be fishing at Summit Lakes in that championship too, Mr. Qualifier. So you're going to have to probably get some schooling from your wife to get up there and chase them greenfish.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to borrow her kayak.
Yeah, go put the smallie stuff aside for a minute and see if you can't find some of them big green ones.
Yeah,
yeah. But just qualifying for that's a pretty big honor too, because you're going against, you're going to be fishing with the best in the state across the board. I mean, that'll be fun.
I think Josh Shrenko qualified for that, so I think him and I will probably go do that together.
Yeah,
we're going to try to bring it home for the river guys. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, go figure something out. There you go.
Hopefully they're eating a fluke. We'll see.
We shall see. Well, brother, I won't keep you that much longer. Like I said, I wanted to keep you for about an hour, but I really wanted to highlight and get you on and talk about like our trips. And, in the future, the folks that follow the Fishing with Gramps YouTube channel will be seeing Alex on the water because Gramps is going to be chasing him around. And I'm going to get some schooling. I mean, it's like I've talked to Josh, I've talked to you, that I'm really putting in the work to be fitter, but now I want to kind of gain some knowledge and just go start this pursuit. I told you it's like, on your hat, you got the tell everybody what your hat is.
It's a Chegan brand, but it's the Quest for 23. So it's kind of like, it's the pinnacle for smallmouth bass is to catch that 23-inch smallmouth. And that's kind of what we're all chasing.
Yeah. So I'm on a Quest for 20. And then if I can, when I break that, because it'll happen sooner or later. I'm gonna get out out and learn. But then I love what Shrenko and those guys have done for the smallmouth community, given them their own identity. Because everything is in the country seems to be based around largemouth. But I mean, I kind of get it now. And so I tell Josh every time I see him that I'm learning a little more. I'm coming. I'm gonna get me one of these days. But I mean, to put up 2 more 19.5s this year with you up north, and then a bunch of 18s. I mean, that was phenomenal. But like you said, the season ain't over. We still got work to do.
It ain't.
So yeah, I'll be getting with you. You just whenever you get a weekend and you say, hey, get your butt up here. Me and the kayak trailer be on the road. Sweet. That is for sure. And then I plan on having an RVR built by springtime too. I haven't decided. I'm building the lake boat for playing and stuff like that too, but I want a dedicated river creek kayak that I can put the motor on or take it off however I want. And I think the RVR for me would be really good for that.
I got the Hobie for the bigger rivers, and then that Recon 120 for the smaller ones. So having two definitely helps.
Yeah, most definitely. And the boat I got on order at Moving Waters right now is the biggest kayak that Bonafide's ever made. So
we got the big one.
The XTR is coming in, so I'll be putting.
Golly.
That thing's huge. But I mean, it's like the Unlimited and the Titan X. But that's going to be my scope boat, and then my river will be my float boat. So it's kind of the way I'm kind of gearing up. I have the green boat, the green bass boat and the brown bass boat. So. We will pursue them, but look forward to it. Well, brother, I will let you get out of here. Again, congratulations. I know you put a lot of work in. That's a lot of learning work. And I mean, I ain't saying you swept the table, but you brought home 5 different awards, I think, just over the weekend. That was a heck of a year, bro.
Yeah.
And we got more to do next year too. So we'll keep at it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, everybody listening in, thank you for following along. Of course, the podcast will be out on the major platforms. Everybody in the Fishing with Gramps fam out there in the chat, appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, Alex Deneau, I tagged him on Instagram and whatnot, and you'll be seeing a lot more of he and I fishing together and more of the Wet Boy Nation that's out there spreading the good word for Achigan and smallmouth bass fishing. As always, get outside when you can and make some memories. One cast at a time.
Amen.